Hey, Em. Good morning, girl. How you doing? Wow, what an amazing day. So today is Tuesday, the 9th of October, 2018. And we spent some time together. So amazing. I think I had a wonderful time on Sunday night at 7:21 p.m. On base, we looked at the launch of the Falcon 9, launching the SAOCOM spacecraft into orbit, and the first stage booster landed. I mean, wow, what a spectacular show that was. And I was so happy to share that experience with you and your mom. I mean, that was a fabulous night. I had such a good time visiting with you and seeing you with you and talking to your mom. And it was a special night. And I'm just so pleased, so relieved and gratified that you said yes to my offer to watch the launch together. I mean, it was fantastic. I just want to say how much I appreciate you for having the courage and the willingness to come forward and just share that experience with me, just be a part of that experience, and so that we could enjoy that together. And, in the process, we learned more about each other. We learned more about what we like, being with one another, and I think we had a really good sense of communion there. During that time, we were just sort of enjoying that whole sequence in front of us, just sort of unfold before us, and it was just so awesome, so pleasant, a wonderful time. It is a time that I will cherish for years to come. A wonderful memory. And I'm so glad that, you were able to enjoy it too. It seemed like you were having a blast. And I hope that you had a chance to talk about the launch the following day at school with your classmates and your experiences with it. And man, it was a good time. So thankful that you were there. Such gratitude for what transpired. What a wonderful time. And I look forward to wonderful times just like that in the future. Definitely looking forward to that. So much fun that we could have. We've got the holiday season coming up with all kinds of events going on in October and November and December. And even January, there's stuff going on. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, there's parades, and there's even Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, one of my heroes. So the next 3 or 4 months are going to be awesome. There's a lot of potential for us to get together and enjoy each other's company and just have a blast, just have fun. That's one of my needs, is just having, what I really want to do is just have more fun and play and enjoy my life as it happens. And doing that in partnership with you, in harmony, in a relationship with harmony and peace, that's something that I wish for, and I can see that I've got, and so happy that happens. So anyway, great. Looking forward to the next time we can get together. So I figured I might as well take some time out and read the book Peaceful Living by Mary Mackenzie. So today's passage is October 9th, and here is the quotation. I was raised to sense what someone wanted me to be and to be that kind of person. It took me a long time not to judge myself through someone else's eyes. Sally Field. That's amazing. As an actress, that's pretty much all Sally Field does as a profession, is to judge herself through other people's eyes. And that, she said here, it took me a long time not to judge myself through someone else's eyes. You know, that's quite a profound statement for a person who judges herself through someone else's eyes professionally. I can see where she's coming from, though. As she's grown older, as she's matured, she's been able to establish her own standards about how to behave. And I'm sure wealth and fame have gone into that perspective. She's got a lot of freedom to make choices for herself because of her wealth and fame. And I have a feeling that those choices, that choice making, she's probably very good at figuring out what she wants. Because she has the choice about where to live, how to live, who to befriend, who to avoid. She's got a lot of choices about what. It's a whole spectrum of choices. Can you imagine the choices that she has? And even when it comes to her work, I mean, she can choose to work or not. Sally Field is so famous, and the projects that she works on, my guess is that they're really her choice. It's essentially a labor of love for her, because why would she do anything that she doesn't want to do? Yeah, she's in a really privileged position, and so I can imagine. She says, it took me a long time not to judge myself through someone else's eyes. She does that all the time through her profession. So yeah, I could imagine making a transition from judging herself through someone else's eyes to sort of judging herself through her own eyes. In a way, it's an interplay. It's an interplay for all human beings. I think as social creatures, human beings really have an eye toward what other people think of us. I know I've personally have a real focus on that aspect of, what other people are thinking. And, this is a really effective, adaptive trait that human beings have. We have the ability to empathize, to imagine another person's world. What might they be seeing when they have a conversation with me? What might be they thinking or feeling? And so we come up with these theories about what they're thinking about us, right? How do we look through their eyes? And I spend actually quite a lot of time thinking about that. And I have a feeling that other people do too. Now, I can imagine some people don't. But there's a consequence. There's definitely a consequence to ignoring other people and what their perceptions are, or at least guessing what other people's perceptions are, because we can never know what other people's perceptions are. Essentially, we're making guesses and then taking account of the consequences of our guesses. And that's how we calibrate how other people view us and whether we're on the right track or not. And it's about positive feedback or negative feedback that we get from our environment, and how those theories pan out. We're constantly asking ourselves, what are other people thinking about us? It's funny because at the same time we are figuring that out ourselves. I don't think it's always clear about even how I think about myself in the moment. There are aspects of my behavior that I really appreciate. There are other aspects I'm not so keen on. And those aspects change. It's very they're not very, it's not always in stasis, you know? Sometimes I'm proud of my behavior, sometimes not so proud. And, you know, there's always, there's this judging, evaluating, reasoning, strategizing as we come up with, you know, the way that we live our lives. And, you know, it's really a focus on, you know, our identities, right? Who is it that we want to present to the world? You know, it's a bunch of decisions, right? It's a decisions about how we feel, about our mental acts, about our physical acts. You know, how do we decide how we present ourselves to the world? And, you know, that's actually a good question. You know, the brain is like this, it sort of sorts out what behaviors it wants to keep and what behaviors it wants to toss, right? And it's the brain sort of creates a personality, right? By doing that, it's sorting behaviors. It's sorting mental behaviors and physical behaviors. It's even sorting judgments about how we judge ourselves. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm sorting judgments about how I judge myself in the moment as we're having this conversation together. It's pretty amazing. So really, it's sort of like I imagine a curator who's curating a museum. As a curator who's curating a museum, he's interested in the visitor experience. And he's trying to guess what the visitor experience might be by adding or subtracting exhibits from the museum. He's curating the photographs and, you know, everything about maybe the mood, even the lighting he's curating. Well, I have a sense that the human brain curates our personality. You know, it's imagining, okay, what kind of life do I want to live? Oh, if that's the case, then I want to add this characteristic, or I want to see less of this characteristic. Oh, and then there's this feedback loop about, you know, oh, this is how other people are experiencing me, and this is how I want other people to experience me. So I'm going to make these changes in my personality. So the human brain is continually curating our personality, right? Giving us more or less of certain traits in certain contexts, right? Because those traits, because we're different people in different contexts. And so the brain, the personality is continually changing and honing itself based on feedback from the self and others. And it's this whole curation process. And I think that creates this coherent personality that's sort of fixed in time, right? It's based on values and judgments that we've made as young people, and that continue to be made. And I have a feeling that these values and judgments are based on survival instincts like safety, right? Okay, this is a safe way to be. And not only that, but it's also based on needs, right? These are the strategies we in our environment, in our particular context, can use to meet our needs. And these strategies are working. And so let's incorporate these personality traits into our personality set. Yeah, it's amazing what the brain does, and it's doing this automatically. You know, we don't have to think about developing a personality and maintaining a personality over time. Or even when the context changes, our personality changes. I'm totally certain of it. So, you know, let's imagine we're from New York City, right? The urban city, and our personality is, I don't know, maybe in an elevator, we don't talk to anybody. Or as we're getting on the subway, you know, we try to make as little eye contact as possible out of respect for others and efficiency and things like that. Boom, we moved from New York City to Tucson, to some small town, right? Small town, California. And I can imagine our personality changing 180 degrees. Now we're chatty. We're chatty when we're in line at the grocery store, and we're chatty when we're getting a cab. our personality changes just because our context changes. The people we're around are just different. And so our brain says, okay, let's alter our personality a little bit. I think we're even altering our personality as we move from friend to friend in a conversation at a party. Oh, that's a coworker. Oh no, that's a friend, lifelong friend that we've known forever. And, we're constantly making adjustments. Theories of personality and how the personality evolves over time, from birth to death, very intriguing questions. And I'm really intrigued about how the human brain does this. Just amazing curation of behavior. And here's the thing. We were talking about Sally Field just a moment ago. And actors and actresses, can you imagine the task of personality construction and maintenance the brain has to go through for actors and actresses? Here, as an actor and actress, they travel the world, and directors and producers just put these actors in all kinds of new situations, right? Where they're acting sad or angry or tough, or, who knows how they're acting, afraid. And just the human personalities just got to make adjustments like crazy, And, really, and of course they're doing it for an audience. And so the human brain is making adjustments about, how this personality operates in time. And it's just remarkable. I have a feeling that actors, now this is a strong word, but I was thinking verge on multiple personalities, which is, I don't want to make that sound like any kind of psychological diagnosis, but let's call it personality flexibility. Personality flexibility. I think, and to me, I think that is an amazing virtue. There we go. Now we're getting to the tone I want to present. So actors and actresses, I think, have a real flexible personality development skill. I think it's a skill that's certainly honed over time, and it's a desirable trait. Imagine like a chameleon, you're able to move and be effective in lots of different contexts with entirely different personalities. I mean, oh, wow, can you imagine what a benefit that would be? Oh, wow. And imagine how creative and expressive that you can be as an actor and actress as your personality sort of changes from situation to situation. And it changes in an effective way so that you're having the effect that you want on your audience or your friends or your relatives. I mean, wow, just an amazing skill that actors and actresses have developed. I'm just blown away by it. Now, here's the thing. My life is my life. It's pretty stable. I've lived in the same place for the last 21 years. I've had the same basically job for 21 years. And I've been around basically the same people for 21 years. and so there's really no need for my personality to change that much from context to context, because my context is essentially the same. I'm an American in California in the same old city, doing the same old job. And so, I have a feeling that my personality construction muscles are a little weak. And I don't have to work that hard. Maybe that's why travel is such a stimulating endeavor, right? People travel to like Italy and France and Hawaii and Asia and South America and Africa, where they get to experiment with, say, maybe different personalities in different settings. Yeah. Maybe that's what I need a little bit more of. It's just a thought. Changing context can change personality, and maybe I need to go to a personality gym a little bit and get out of my old context. There's benefits to change. A lot of people think about the downsides to change, but there's so many upsides to change. It's really phenomenal. Here's the problem. When things change, people very quickly get non-accepting. There's this whole tendency to be non-accepting when there's change because, well, it's a habit, right? The way you've been living your life is the way you've been living your life. And these changes, they just, I don't know, they demand creative strategies for coping with those changes, right? We're always coping with change, coming up with different behaviors to sort of adapt to change at our new environments. That takes energy, it takes skill. It's a trial and error process. So there are problems that arise when change happens. Like, how am I going to find a job? Or what am I going to eat tomorrow? Or even what am I going to eat my next meal? Where am I going to get money after all this change? I think of things like natural disasters where people's homes are lost, and it's like, okay, what do I do now? Maybe their workplace is gone. And it's like, wow, that's a lot of change. That's a lot of change happening at once. Maybe they lose a family member or relative, or they become disabled. And it's like, wow, how do we adapt to this change? It's a significant change. So here's something I've been thinking about recently, and maybe you can give me your critique about the strategy and whether it makes sense. But I've been trying personally to do a better job at accepting the world around me and accepting change. Now, you may not know this, but I'm quite challenged when change happens. I am a creature of habit. And I love to sort of throw myself into the same old habits again and again and again. I mean, I love that. That's one thing I love about my life is it's just the same. And I mean, I can make the changes I want to. I love the variations on a theme, certainly. But if things start changing a little bit too much, I get a little bit discombobulated. So now I recognize that weakness in my personality. And I'm thinking there's an antidote. And I wonder if you could tell me, what you think about that antidote. And here's the antidote, all right? The antidote to non-acceptance about change is the word yes. It's the word yes. I think yes, that word, not only the word, but the attitude of yes, the approach, it's about a willingness, and a willingness to accept the change. That's what yes means to me. Willingness to accept the change. And I imagine embodying the word yes, embodying that acceptance when change happens. And I think that's a really powerful approach. And can you imagine the challenge of saying yes to a lot of different life changes? I mean, this is radical acceptance. What I'm talking about is radical acceptance, at least from my perspective. And so for me, this is my edge. This is my edge right now. I'm all about, actually, I'm not there yet, right? But I'm entertaining the idea of basically being more yes in my approach to change. I know, how is that possible? So this is my edge right here. I'm just saying, wow, am I able to be a yes when change happens in front of me? In new contexts, can I be a yes? Can I just embody the yes? Can my thoughts and my perspective just be a yes? There's risk. There's risk in saying yes. It's much less risky to say no. Much less risky to say no to change. It's much more risky to say yes. Now, it's hard to say. There's some things really that it's not in your long-term self-interest to say yes to. And you know what? Oh my gosh, I just had a realization. It's not all about your long-term realization. I mean, not about your long-term self-interest. It's about your long-term self-interest according to what values, right? You're judging your long-term self-interest according to closely held values, right? And so when your context changes, you almost have no choice but to shift values a little bit because the context has changed. I mean, the new context represents a whole new set of needs and wants, or at least what can be accomplished. You know, it's almost as if we're in, when we're put in a new situation, I'm reminded of the pigeon experiments from, oh man, what's the scientist's name? That's not coming to mind. But, you know, when you're in a new environment, basically what you've got is this new feedback control system, right? You're basically placed in a new feedback control system. And so it's going to require different decisions. And essentially you might have to change up your values a little bit, right? You might have been, maybe introversion worked in this old context, and introversion in this new context doesn't work, okay? All right? So, and so you've got to move to extroversion in order to get what you want in this new context. Your values have to change. And, you know, I know people think, well, there's some values that are eternal. And, I mean, that may be true from a high level. Like life, for example. Life is a value. I cherish my life. I value my life. But that is actually a rather high level value. And so you can say, rightly, that life as a value is what I'd call a fixed value over the course of your life. But that there are other values too, like chocolate chip cookies. That's a value. Toll House chocolate chip cookies. Yeah, I value those. And, you know, a Toll House chocolate chip cookie is something that I strive to gain or keep. And so definitely Toll House chocolate chip cookies are a value. But they're not quite a value when I'm trying to lose weight, or if I'm having medical problems, then they become a disvalue, correct? So values change in different contexts. When I'm thin, I can have my Toll House cookies. But when I'm obese, I cannot have my Toll House cookies, all right? You know, and that's in order to maintain the higher level value of my life, right? A healthy life. So my point is, values change when contexts change. And so what that means is saying yes to a change in values that are more effective and adaptive in that new environment. Can you do it? Can you do it? You know, there are values that I cherish. I love experiencing certain values in the moment. Like, for example, I love taking hot showers, right? Oh, that's a value to me. You bet. But I can imagine being in a context, say a foreign land, where there's no hot water, right? There may not even be any running water where I could take a shower. And so the value, I basically have to change my values out. I had to start appreciating washing myself in a bowl, right? Or in a tub, or in tepid water instead of hot water. And so can I say yes to that? You know, that's really the ultimate question. Can I say yes to new values as they arise, as they become important to me in order to achieve my higher level values, like sustainment and maintenance of my own life? You know, it's about where my comfort zone is, how comfortable I am when it comes to adopting to these new values. You know, there are changes in my life that are happening right now. I'm shifting from doing ecstatic dance in Santa Barbara to doing ecstatic dance in San Luis Obispo now, just for a time, maybe about 6 months or so. And anyway, that's change. Can I say yes to that change? Am I willing to say yes in the moment to it? And how can I facilitate that change to make that change an easier transition for me to make, one that has the least discord in my life as possible. I think I can do it. I think if I focus enough on it, I can say yes to life. Okay, on that note, saying yes to life, I think that's going to be my bit of fatherly advice for this video. Saying yes to life. All right, I haven't even gotten to Mary Mackenzie's passage here in Peaceful Living. So October 9th, here we go. So the subtitle to Mary Mackenzie's passage is called Liberating Ourselves. I love that title. Let's liberate ourselves and read a little bit about what Mary Mackenzie has to say. Many years ago, I moved away from my hometown for the first time. It was one of the most painful, devastating, and enlightening periods of my life. I lived in a place where no one had a preconceived idea of who I was. Everyone I encountered saw me for the first time. I was both anonymous and new. I used this opportunity to discover who I really was underneath all my layers of habitual behaviors. During the first few years in my new environment, I uncovered depth, talent, and courage I never knew I had. Because I no longer had family to rely on, I learned how to be resourceful and independent. I learned that I was athletic and physically powerful. I started to see myself through my own eyes rather than other people's. I liberated myself. If you struggle with people's preconceived notions of who you are, consider stepping out of the situation. You don't have to move to another city or state, or move at all. You could change your job or career, or go on a trip and meet new people. Look for ways to discover who you are in your new setting. Once you know who you are, you will be less likely to be defined by other people. And the thought for the day is, be aware today of other people's ideas of who you are. Notice if they fit your notion of who you are. Wow. I'm really surprised at how accurate my initial, on the face of it, interpretation of this quote sort of coincided with Mary Mackenzie's passage as well. I'm getting good at this. All right, so yeah. So she changed her context and she decided to change her life as a result. And I really loved how she said it was one of the most painful, devastating, and enlightening periods in my life. So yeah, when life happens and change happens, yeah, there's a lot of loss, right? There's mourning about the loss of a certain set of values that were effective in one context, but not effective in this new context. And so, I can imagine there's a lot of reminiscing about the past and what it was that was so satisfying, right? Those worn paths in your neurons, your neuronal pathways, and just how much pleasure those activities brought you at that time in that old context. Now it's gone, right? There's loss. It's sadness. It's really sad. But at the same time, she said it was transformative. She was transformed for the better. I mean, I can imagine her making the changes she had to make. Got to know herself as physically strong in this new context. Strong both physically and emotionally. She didn't have her family to rely on. So this gave her more confidence, right? She was transformed. She was changed. She sort of grew and evolved, right, in this new context. And it was accompanied by loss of the values from the old context, right? Isn't it funny? It's like a balance, how you give up something but yet gain something new. A new perspective, perhaps, or maybe new abilities, new talents. You learn how to orchestrate your life in different ways. And like a phoenix, you rise from the ashes of loss and you are transformed. You evolve into a different self, hatched into this new world, where you sort of behave differently, acquire different talents, different skills, use different strategies, exercise different parts of your personality. And who doesn't want that? What I find quite interesting is that she also said that in order to make these changes, you don't have to move. Whoa. That is an interesting concept to consider. Imagine not having to move. You know what? It's true. It is true. For example, I talk a lot about fashion. Well, when I'm with you. And I think about fashion myself. In the moment, I can decide to turn on a dime and change my fashion choices. Yeah, it's a loss for me not to wear, say, chinos and button-down shirts and exchange those for shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops. I do have a love for button-down shirts. And imagine just deciding, hey, I'm not going to wear button-down shirts anymore in a fashion change. That could be dramatic. That could be life-shifting. It also doesn't require me to move or change context. I can experiment with new ways of behaving, and that is exciting and creative in and of itself. I don't have to move. I don't even have to spend any money. So I can see how that is possible. Yeah, I can. There are changes that you can make. For example, let's say you happen to be socially withdrawn. Maybe it's easy for you to sort of step back from a conversation or step back from social situations and be with yourself and enjoy some alone time. Imagine if you just decided out of the blue, I want to be a more effective communicator. I want to be a social butterfly. I want to be extroverted when I relate to other people. Imagine the changes that are possible for taking place. And what precipitated the change? Well, it was just a process of decision making. It was a decision that you made in a moment in time. A decision to wear flip-flops from here on in every day. Sun's out, thighs out, right? It's a decision also, possibly, to be a more effective communicator and be more extroverted in your relationships. A decision to reach out to others and experience what that personality change has to offer you. It's sort of a willingness to give up those time-worn habits that's been conditioned into you and that you've conditioned into yourself over years. That's transformative. Those kinds of decisions are transformative. There are people who make decisions to eat healthier, right? They say, I'm just not going to eat processed meats anymore. I've been reading a lot of articles on the news that say they are rather carcinogenic, and there are greater chances that I can have problems down the road with my health if I continue to eat processed meat products, right? And they say, okay, let's make a change, and they do, right? Or let's stop smoking, or let's stop drinking, or taking any substance. Let's just stop this substance use. And in that moment, even without moving to a different location, a person can make a change. You know, can you imagine how, it's really inspiring that people can make those kind of drastic decisions about their life and just really just make huge decisions about the direction of their life and then make it happen, make it work. Is that phenomenal that people can do that? That's amazing. Pretty much all of psychotherapy and psychology, it turns on the decisions that people make in the moment. And so I guess that's another piece of fatherly advice. Are you ready for more fatherly advice? If you want to change your life and you want to make your life better, if you're feeling emotional pain and you want that pain to stop, what makes that possible is a decision. There's a moment in time where you decide to change behavior, your mental acts, your physical acts. It's that decision point. That's the decision point that makes it possible. It makes change possible. Before the decision, what is there before a decision? Well, there's quite often uncertainty, there's ambivalence, there's a consideration of reasons. It's a deliberative process, right? Just prior to that decision, it's deliberation. And deliberation, this consideration of new and different strategies, that is what lies prior to a decision made. After a decision is made, well, that's when the excitement, that's when there is actually quite a lot of excitement. When, you're treading new ground and, change is happening and you're managing it as you're failing, right? You're learning, you're evolving. And that all happens post-decision. It's about the decision point where you choose after a time of deliberation to make a choice. And it's that choice. What happens after that choice is the possibility of less emotional pain. There's the possibility of greater health. There's the possibility of greater physical ability. There's the possibility of greater philosophical and psychological development, right? And it's only after the decision point has been passed that those changes are possible. And so that's my fatherly advice, that if you want things to change, that moment, that really what happens is that change is possible only after a decision has been made. There has to be a changed decision and likely a commitment to that decision over time. So it's possible. Everything that you hope for is possible only if you make a decision to do it, right? It's that decision point. Getting to the point of certainty about making a decision is not easy. Human beings are continually in a deliberative process. We are continually deliberating. There's a lot of ambivalence. There's a lot of uncertainty. And you know what? It's just not true that any decision you make leads to a better life. Some decisions lead to a worse life, right? And not only that, all we can do really is take chances. It's a calculated risk. When we make a choice and settle on some decision, it's a calculated risk. There's a certain probability on a Gaussian curve that this decision is going to result in positive outcomes, in positive consequences. And you know what? It may not happen. There's also a slight chance that the decision won't work. That even if you make the choice, even if you make the decision, it doesn't always, it might result in some kind of transformation, but the consequences may not be what you intended, because it's a calculated choice. If, for example, people deliberate for years about whether or not to get LASIK surgery, right, to improve their myopic vision so they don't have to wear glasses anymore. And if you take the Gaussian curve, after people make the decision to get the LASIK surgery, a good 80 to 90%, do fantastic. Their lives are changed and they see better. But 2 to 5% don't have that experience. Their vision is worse. Or, they have serious health problems after it that may not relate to their vision, but relate to other aspects of their seeing ability or their eyes. And so it's a calculated risk. Are you willing to take the risk of, say, only just a 95% success rate when it comes to your eyes? Actually, I wasn't. I never had eye surgery. I never had LASIK eye surgery. We paid for your mom to have LASIK eye surgery, and that was great. She loved it, and I'm so happy for her that she had a wonderful experience with LASIK. But I never did. I could have. We had the money, but I chose, in the end, I chose contacts instead. So what does that mean? Well, at that time, I was a little risk adverse, and I think, so for me, that calculated risk didn't make any sense. I wasn't willing. It did make sense. It's just I wasn't willing to take the calculated risk. Every time we hop into a car and we want to go from point A to point B, we're taking a calculated risk that we'll be alive when we arrive at point B. So, the choice is important. The deliberative process, that's important. But whatever action we take, it's a calculated risk. It may not work out. You may try to be extroverted and you may turn people off because of one personality trait or another. And actually, you might not meet your needs for, things might go worse for you, possibly. Maybe the way you do it or in the context you do it. I can imagine even the pursuit of extroversion not being satisfying. Just for some people, it's not satisfying. And in some contexts. So it is a calculated risk. It takes more than just a decision and a follow-through. There's also the consequences in that context. And you know what? Even so, life is just like this. Life is a calculated risk. Another piece of fatherly advice. I'm just a font of golden nuggets of wisdom today. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm about to wrap things up, Emily. And, I really enjoyed meeting with you on Sunday. I really cherish our time together. Our time together is important. You are important to me. And I look forward to continuing in helping you unfold as a human being, unfold as your best self. And, for me, it's all about you being in the driver's seat. It's hands off. You are the one that's in the driver's seat. And for me, it's just a privilege to sort of give you the propulsion to the ability to meet your goals, whatever they may be, whatever your profession will be, whatever your future is. I want that to be up to you. And I have the privilege of watching it unfold. And I also have the privilege of supporting you and building you and encouraging you and inspiring you. And then just helping to propel you to whatever choices you want to make. I am here. My role is to enable you and helping you unfold your life. And I want to enable you in whatever direction you choose to live your life. And to me, that is what brings me joy. Yeah, I love you, girl. Peace. And, I want to mention that I love you just the way you are. Just the way you are. Full acceptance. That is my yes to you. My yes for me and my yes to you. And we'll work it out. We'll transform together. We will learn together as we partner shoulder to shoulder in this thing called life. All right? I love you, girl. Bye-bye.